G'day guys, and welcome to a review of Doncaster Day at Randwick on the 7th of April. I'll try and get through this program as quick as possible. One, because I've already recorded it and buggered it up, and two, because it's a 10 race program and it will take forever if I don't sort of get stuck into it. Quickly, the pattern, definitely an advantage to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 probably in that lane off the fence in the straight. Definitely wanted to be up closer to the tempo if possible. Didn't want to be getting back and circling, which is usually the pattern for a Randwick rail true, or certainly off the fence in the straight, and not a disadvantage to be coming from just off the speed and wide. It looked tougher to do yesterday than normal, more like a Rose Hill typical bias for a rail true, where they save ground and get off a little bit and run well, and on pace is an advantage. Getting into the day, looking, we'll keep that in mind. The first race of the day, the Kindergarten Stakes. Couple of key points here that the early favourite in Enbahar was about $2.50 out to $6. Jagged out of the race early and basically never took part. Finished 9 lengths behind the winner. The winners started 50 to 1. You go looking for excuses for the others and why this horse has beaten them. I really couldn't find too many. They've run even time. The time was okay, slightly below average. Not a super knock on the winner, but I'm worried about the form of the race overall. The well-backed runner in the race was Lean Machine and to a smaller extent Legend of Condor. They run second and third, and the winner looks to have beaten them on merit, even though it was in the right part of the track and did have the nice run in transit. I don't really want to be too negative on it. I just want to be very wary of the races and overall. So learning not too much. First of all, we see the favourite here jagged out of the race, or the early favourite ended up obviously, and never really improved, coming off a huge second in the Blue Diamond Stakes there 5 or 6 weeks ago. So the winner ends up third the fence, second horse outside the leader, third horse here in Lean Mean Machine. Stunts comes through for fourth. They've all had nice enough runs in transit. Lean Mean Machine maybe slightly the harder run of the three, but the four, but no real excuses considering a horse with not great form has sat a pair closer and won the race quite dominantly in the end, as we'll see here. Stunt's probably got a pair back further than I expected, and its effort was okay. If it goes back in grade, I'm not too worried about it. The only horse I could probably knock, Tennis Hill, he's had a comfortable time of it in front and noticeably weak late. So Pakiri does enough for me, and does it quickly and strong enough through the line to be saving him from negativity. Lean Mean Machine was just okay, but looks like it wants further for mine, and only second start in a race. I'm not real keen to be too negative on it. Vendome did a decent enough job its first start in a race. Back here, I think the two sort of weakish runs were Munich and Ennis Hill. Haven't learned a lot from that race. Race 2. Carbon Clyde Stakes, well-back favourite, Holy Snow, got poleaxed out of the gates, as I'll show you. Sorry, I didn't get polished, just got back. The next race is where the favourite gets hit at the start. Simulate was well in betting, couldn't really understand why it was. Its pattern's diabolical, and the way this track was racing, or looking like it was in that first race at least, that it was going to be difficult, so I was surprised it was so firm in betting. Sambro has no luck at all in the straight, chopped out. There's a knock on the race, and the winner has a sweet run again. This is a little bit weaker race than the first race. Slower tempo, which sort of makes you be a little bit more lenient, but still not a race I'm too excited about going forward. The two leaders controlled the tempo quite well to have their chance. The second horse obviously sat outside the speed here and finished second in the race. Sambro's the one that gets unlucky. Villamont finishes fourth, Murakeb the winner, Holy Snow the third place getter. Back here on the fence. So again, they've sort of all followed this pattern in the run, that they've ended up in a similar position. Murakeb's won Lotto, whereby Sambro probably could have easily been on the back of Dissolution here and got this run. He's got the run after racing a pair further back, not had to go around a runner basically. Got that split done a little bit, not a lot. Other horses disadvantaged and stronger on the line. He's only just, hitting the line for mine. If you're going to be negative in this race, it's going to be on the winner for mine. It's probably got the most upside in being negative towards Holy Snow, a little bumping duel held up, obviously got back. Icon and Dubai come down the hardest part of the track to run on. Assimilate back here is just that victim of its racing style. And Bojest is really a little bit one pace. He's just not really chasing the line that hard for mine. He's just looks a bit of a pack chaser. Villamont okay backing trip, and Sonderlon obviously the third run at a mile was a little bit one paced as well. Murakeb as a negative knock, the only thing I could find here, and nothing I really want to back in similar grade coming out of this race, even though I do think Dissolution's going really well. And you see the interference that Sambro cost, so a complete forgive for it. Race 3, PJ Bell Stakes, and this is where the favourite gets checked at the start. She's so high, Catchy also checked at the start. That takes away from the race. They did run solid time though, and the winner does a good job and strong as anything basically on the line. I didn't mind the run of the second and third horses here, who both were coming off a second up off a decent break, and Problem Solver was coming off a break. Demerara definitely had its chance. It was weak in betting, which was surprising, but didn't run that well. I was interested to see how this horse Charlene ran here, first up for the Waller camp, and thought it was a little bit weak late, which is a little bit surprising, but it was 1200 first up, so it can improve, but definitely not the flashing light run that I was expecting. So first of all, we'll see here the two favourites, or two of the horses hard in the betting. She's so high and Catchy getting in a squeezing battle there at the start. The winner sits outside the leader. Third horse, Problem Solver, Manicure on its back, eventually here in the red. Demerara running fourth on its inside. Here we go. She's So High coming down the outside here. Winner, third horse, second horse. So again, similar lanes, not too far off. These two runners did get exposed a little bit in the run, so a good effort. Demerara cuts back to marginally slower ground, but had a nice run, and it is that sort of turn-of-foot horse, so I thought it had its chance. Catchy battles away back here on the inside and Frolic down the outside, probably both forgives. I think it's a pretty well-graded race. Definitely not knocking the winner. It was strong on the line and a good effort. Not knocking second or third. They look to be building towards a win, and Demerara is probably the one that was a little bit soft, if anything, but it's run fourth. It hasn't run a place, so I don't really want to be negative towards it. Everyone will kind of play it as it is, I think, and there was a little gap behind it, so those are both positives. Nothing race for mine, that one, PJ Bell, but not scared to back anything coming out of it. I think it was a strong enough race. Country Championships, and what a good win this was, and a better win than I expected. I'm big against horses being tried at distances for the first time, especially horses that are quite sharp. So I'm talking horses with good acceleration, good speed, anything going up in distance. It's not always easy, and for this horse to come off a long break with just a trial in between, Jenny Graham's done a great job to take this race out. He was very dominant, ran into a dead end, which is, you know, even better. He's going up in trip and run into a dead end and sprinted away from him. Obviously got back in that nice inside section. I don't think Don't Give a Damn was anywhere near his best on the day and did a good job to run second, but all honours with the winner. I thought there was a sneaky run back in the field if it goes back in grade that I'll highlight. And other than that, not too much to be learnt. The time was okay, the tempo was quick, so, you know, you'd expect them to run on a little bit here, but obviously the pattern again was against that. So I was a little bit surprised that they weren't more positive on this horse, Don't Give a Damn. I thought that was his big advantage, and once he slotted in, I was a bit worried about his chances. The winner's back here. Sorry, the winner's back on the inside here. Fourth horse in Benelong Dancers outside it. Oso Hazy runs third outside the leader. Careless Choice back here. Suncraze on its outside, never really got into the race. My Tagason was in the hardest part to run on. I thought this horse here was the one to follow. Keeping an eye on it. It's called Noel's Gift. Runs into a dead end here, as you'll see on the back of Suncraze, or in between Suncraze and another runner. And I thought it finishes off well back to the inside. The only thing is that it obviously was pace assisted to a certain degree, but the bias is against, and just finishes off nicely under its own steam late. If it goes back in grade, it can run a race somewhere. I think it's going well. All honours with the winner, as we'll see here. Sorry, we watch here. This is him in the black pom-pom. Goes for a run between the favourite and another runner here. I'm not sure which horse it is, so I think it's Better Long Dancer. And is forced back to the inside. Not easy to do that when at full tilt and then be able to pick up and sprint again. I think he had a few things in his favour, but I think he's a pretty smart horse. And for him to run that 1400 metre out that strongly, and look how he sort of just chases the line. He's a lovely horse. He's got good ability, and I think he'll make much better grade than this. I think the second horse is a talented horse, and hopefully they put him away now and give him a chance to come back and show his true capabilities next preparation. But we definitely didn't see the best of him in that final. They were the clear two dominant horses. I thought on ability, I did seriously question whether 1400 metres off the preparation he had was ideal for the winner. So he's definitely exceeded my expectations and run extremely well. And as is sort of highlighted there, Noel's Gift back in the field. He could probably one that can go back in grade and run well. Chairman's Quality. Dominant performance here from Sir Charles Road and Ventura Storm. Peribson didn't get the greatest ride in the world, I didn't think, but time was good here. Evenish tempo, a little bit solidish, but not seriously anything to worry about. Nothing really failed that was in the betting other than Sis Montaigne. I couldn't believe the money for it. It was quite crazy. Maybe it was the on-pace bias, but his form looked only fair. Even leading into the race, Allwood was a little bit disappointing, if anything, having the nice run just behind, and the two Australian bloodstock horses, Ormito and Ducan, finished off the race quite well. I'll have a quick look at it. Not a lot to be learned, but obviously these horses will be going to the Sydney Cup next week, or a few of them, you would imagine, so definitely worth having a look at them. Ventura Storm sits about midfield here. The winner on its back gets a nice run through, very good ride from Blake Shin. This horse here I thought was the horse that had the torrid run in Admiral Jello and can improve going forward. The winner's here on the outside of the rails runner. Second horse is wider than it, coming wide. Allwood comes through and gets on the back of them, so he certainly had his chance. But these two are quite dominant, so the winner's coming out now. Ventura Storm down the outside. I think those two and Admiral Jello were the three runs of the race. Peribson needs a more positive ride for mine. The rider gave up a little bit early on racing more forward and dragged him back a bit far and took his chances away from him. He's a horse that definitely looks like he'll run out 2 miles, but he's extremely one-paced. I'm not sure where the two Australian bloodstock horses go, but they both ran well enough to improve off that and run well again at their next starts. Yeah, I think it's a decent enough form race for these sort of races, but they do take a bit of turns, in winning races. So it's not always easy to find coming winners out of these races. But no doubt these two horses, first and second, are going extremely well, and Admiral Jello and Peribson. Good enough efforts in behind. Allwood probably goes back in grade and back in trip. Size Produce, Group 1 level. Oops, sorry. The Huda Tragedy beaten here. The winner is just, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to describe the improvement that it's made. The third horse, I'm kicking myself for not having something on at 100 to 1 after it was identified by our sort of trial team early in its career as a horse we wanted to follow right through sort of slippers and size, and it's made it to this race, bypassed the slipper, and its form only looked fair on paper, but it's certainly picked up on game day here and run a great race. A little bit unlucky not to finish closer to the winner. Tchaikovsky was well backed and weak late. Seabrook was probably the disappointing runner back on the inside, and again pretty average to the line. I thought Spin ran really well here. We'll highlight its run, and going forward to the Champagne Stakes, sort of looking at these horses, definitely a hood, maybe outrageous, even though he's sort of back in the field and weaving late off the back of what was a strong tempo. They went out quite quick here. Spin's a funny one. I think if he draws a gate and gets a city, he gives this race a shake. So maybe he'll be seasoned enough for the Champagne now. But we'll take a look at the race anyhow. So Ahood crosses early. This is the winner back here, third last. Spin had to be wide here with no cover, it looked like, for most of the way. It's hard to tell with that side on angle how much cover the horses had. The Hood's in the middle here, the winner's back second last, third last, comes to a position that no other did on the day and runs them down. Nothing else really ran on out there. They sort of battled away. Whether it leaves them for dead here, as we'll see, it sort of swings wide out into a lane that no other horse did. The Hood gets held up. This is Seabrook back on the fence here, just sort of battles. Tchaikovsky outside of it. Ring-a-ding-ding and Bondi get finish midfield and worse. So there was and this is Outrageous here, held up in the middle in the Chautauqua colours. So those two runners sort of being held up a little bit, while this horse has got the momentum down the outside and the paces have helped it. Spin's had a tough run, but clear momentum and runs well. The Hood sprints extremely well after being held up, and as I said, just a tragedy beaten. But the winner's not exactly weak on the line either. Outrageous pops through the middle here, a little bit lucky probably to pinch third, or unlucky, it's hard to say. It's not a clear-cut race for mine, this whole race. It's a bit difficult to work out what's kind of gone on amongst a lot of these runners that finish in a blanket go. I think the Hood's definitely the horse to follow out of the race, but it's had such a tough prep. Seabrook was held up a little bit, forced back to the inside, copped a little bump there, but still a little bit plain for mine. I thought Longleaf had a good enough run to be a little bit stronger on the line, and there's just too much of a bunch finish over these horses to really be super positive about what's going to happen with a lot of the race and the chances going towards the Champagne. But a Hood definitely has certainly beat. I cannot explain how the second horse has improved, the winner has improved as well as it has, but taking it on face value, it was probably the winner of the day, even though it's had pace in its favour. Quite a difficult race to dissect, and not a super strong race time-wise either, so that takes away from it. It wouldn't surprise me if something came from left field to win the Champagne, but it doesn't usually happen, so we'll have to assess that sort of race on its own merits when they come. Australian Derby. Dominant performances here from the two horses that had lovely runs in transit. Lavendi definitely had the tougher of the two runs, and kind of would have been a bit stiff to lose the race, I believe, especially on protest, but dominant between the two of them. Lavendi presented great in the yard and really looked to be thriving on its preparation. Most runners had their chance here, apart from Furore, who had a really tough run and put up a huge performance to finish as close as it did. Main stage, I thought its effort was worth mentioning. It did a good job. The tempo was quite solid, but the time only fair, so not a super difficult run outside leader, but never the right spot to be in a derby. So a good effort to be in it for as long as it was. We'll see that this is Furore back here. See the start. Oops. So just had no luck getting in Furore. There's a bit of a scrimmaging sort of thing that goes on. He comes off second best, gets caught wide, ends up circling the field and up outside the leaders eventually. So we'll see Main Stage had to come around and ends up outside leader, and Furore ends up three wide outside them. The winners back here, hard to see. Second horse, Ace High's just had the perfect run in behind the pack. Vinder Dance also gets the right run through and presents to win. I thought Mission Hill was probably a little bit disappointing on the back of the two horses, the right horses. You see Lavendi, instead of getting going there, sort of held up for quite a time and forced to make a bit longer and wider run than otherwise would have had to be. So its efforts, it's really good to run this horse down, who's obviously a VRC Derby winner already. Vinder Dance, this is main stage, is a really good effort, main stage. Still in front there with 200 to go. Tangled comes from back in the field, definitely had a passage that wasn't the clearest and does a good effort to come back up that inside section and run third. So that sort of horse, he just sort of pokes up in the placings in these big races. He was a little bit unlucky in a Group 1 early in his career. Few all right there throughout, main stage right there throughout. After having tough runs in transit, they're putting good performances, and they'll probably be interesting horses to follow in the spring. Vinder Dance is just extremely one-paced. He's similar to Weather For You, probably Weather For You's a grade or two below him in class. But the top two have done a great job there. You know, Lavendi's just been presented in perfect order. His last two runs in Sydney, and he's got away with them. Wins, and Ace High was building to this his whole preparation, and grand final day he hasn't let them down. He's gone beaten a nose, and all credit to him. He's probably fights back and wins if they go another 100 metres. He's a tough horse. So these horses don't really go anywhere from now. They come back in the sprint, so there's not really much upside in dissecting the race too much more, but that was a quick look at the race anyway. TJ Smith, nothing much happens apart from the disgraceful ride on In Her Time, which the jockey came out and said after the race he didn't show enough figure. Early in the race, as we'll see, which leaves Randwick in front. So this is In Her Time here. I think I expected her to sort of definitely cross Brave Smash, and that was the one thing I thought was a certainty, that it would cross Brave Smash, even if it didn't cross Takedown and hold out horses like Fell Swoop and that. I thought it would be sort of in the second, third pair back at worst. We'll see where it ends up. Randwick crosses, gets the easiest of leads. Trapeze Artist ends up on the back of Global Glamour and gets the right run that he needs. He likes that bit of room, but also cover to do his best. And we'll see here, he nearly drags the horse out. I don't know what the heck he's thinking. He ends up behind his regular stable he rides for in Brave Smash in the Darren Weir runner, and I don't know what the heck he was thinking. It's just it's one of the worst rides I've ever seen. So I don't know what he's playing at there. It's just a shocker. Anyhow, Trapeze Artist ends up outside 3 wide line here. Randwick gets a nice enough time of it in front. They ran pretty average sections, as in solid, but nothing too quick that he couldn't usually absorb, and he's run as well as he obviously could on the day. No excuses for him. Trapeze Artist comes to the outside, warms up. Another great effort, I thought, from the Mission, who ran extremely well in the Galaxy, and he's backed it up here with another good effort. In Her Time, completely held up when they're all off and sprinting. Does a good job to be able to pick up and run third, or like a really good job. I thought Laura Main was a huge improvement on its first half effort and its trials, and it might have just taken time to get fit. The Mission is extremely hard horse to place, but he's run well. And English down the outside, a pretty honest effort, but the pattern was against her. So In Her Time, the unlucky runner. Randwick thought he had his chance. The winner, no knock on him at all. He's had the right run, but finished off strongly. And that was the TJ Smith. Doncaster Mile had the sweet run. Happy Clapper always looked to be the case. That lack of tempo and the inside draw certainly helped him. Since he's found this tactical speed that he didn't have early in his career, he's gone to another level, Happy Clapper, and he's thoroughly deserving of this win. Great to see for Pat Webster and Connections. He's just become an absolute warhorse. Some good runs here. The second horse in coming through, wide no cover, very brave. Tom Melbourne even wider and working even more forward and brave. Humidor was solid, not a lot of luck back in the field. Definitely a better horse going the other way. Kementari definitely unlucky. D'Argento also given a very average ride and a big performance. So I think the form will be quite solid out of this race, and can be followed with confidence. They ran along certainly, and the tempo was fast. Even RB at Sam to battle away into third up into this grade, a good effort. So this is Tom Melbourne up outside the leader, pulling RB at Sam, coming through out here or wide with no cover. Kementari, who could have got on the back of Happy Clapper, I thought early, and I think that's kind of where he made his wrong mistake or his decision early. Instead of being in the pack here, he could have been following the favourite in the race, or the second favourite. He's obviously the favourite, but if he gets out here, you know, it doesn't happen. So it's not the worst ride I've ever seen by any mistake, but I think that little error in judgment as it worked out now, I'm not saying it was at the time, because as I said, if he gets a split, he looks like a genius. If he had gone on the back of Happy Clapper, he probably finishes much closer. Coming through, a really good effort after racing wide, no cover. As we said, Tom Melbourne battles away well. RB at Sam battles away well back in distance. Never easy to do that, and Happy Clapper's quite dominant for me. D'Argento back here, the problem I had with the D'Argento ride is why he's sort of 3-4 lengths behind the last horse for no reason. He never really makes much of a tactical move at all. He just allows them to all get away from him and then tries to chase them down, and we're talking a Group 1 Doncaster handicap here. The other poorish ride, I thought, it showed absolutely no initiative, was that on Lanciado. Go back and show it in a sec, but it'll show that Happy Clapper's really got control of this race nice and early. D'Argento's closing well. Second horse battling with RB at Sam after having tough enough runs. We'll see that Lanciado's just dragged right back. Instead of trying to pinch any sort of ground here, which was obviously needed to be able to do. To me, he would have got this run that D'Argento had to maintain 4 or 5 lengths to get to, and really to have its chance, Lanciado had to take this run and come through the field. There was no way that we're going to be able to circle and run these horses down, especially the way the track was. So basically the horse was given none for mine, and it ran extremely well again. So there were a few hard luck stories behind the winner, but he's highly dominant and found an on-pace position, accelerated, put the race away. A couple of horses had tough runs behind. No luck for D'Argento, no luck for Kementari, no luck for Lanciado, but a pretty solid Doncaster, and that's what you expect for these high-grade handicaps. Lucky last race of the day, fast tempo, horrific time. Terribly slow time. They've come home sort of nearly 30... Where did they come home, sorry? 36.67, a little bit slower than that, I think, and after going out only fractionally fast, they've run pretty slow time overall. So I'm worried about this race from a quality perspective. I think the leaders kind of didn't run the trip out in Wedgie, so that was a $6.50 chance taken out of the market by not running the trip. Harmattan was a very aggressively back runner, and I couldn't really work it out, but it was a little bit disappointing as well. Love was well ridden for mine, allowed to come into the race right when they've sort of slackened that tempo off and worked into it and just ground away. She was a solid effort. Chili Charge up in grade, not too bad, pretty to see. Definitely had its chance, as did Harmattan, and Jungle Fish closes off late. She's a Treasure got back in the field. It's a difficult race to work out how weak it is. The winners come down a part of the track that wasn't easy to come down. So the winner's back here, takes off at the perfect moment. Second horse behind the leader. Third horse in front of the favourite. This is the favourite coming wide, so it comes with it. And fourth horse, Harmattan, in between them and gets the run at the right time. So you expected it to half explode here the way they backed it. Just ground away. Favourite definitely just grinds away. Looks to get beaten about 16 times down the straight here, but just keeps coming. Wedgie certainly weakened late, not looking like it ran the trip, and this is just a maiden here, so I'm very worried about this form. Lover for mine has to improve significantly off this, which is possible. Was a few weeks between runs, had a huge weight, and you know that she's going to keep grinding, but I'm not over ecstatic about her lead up run here into the slipper, saying, into the Oak, saying she's absolutely airborne and going to crush her rivals next week. It's a tough staying effort, which is what you sort of think of her as. But certainly not a super dominant horse that you can see just sitting 4 wide in Oaks and running away from them. She'll just keep grinding. So I'd probably be a little bit negative towards the runner-ups. Pretty to see going forward. I think that's a little bit flattering. Had the right run. Certainly had its chance to run the winner down, and the time and everything was pretty weak. So Chili Chacha was rising grade, run third. I don't want to be too hesitant towards it. And I thought Harmattan certainly had its chance, and they may overplay it going forward. Jungle Fish back to its right grade can certainly run well. And just have a quick look at She's a Treasure, because I definitely didn't have a good look at it. It's back here. It's probably a horse that can improve off that run. It was quite a gap between runs and did get back and have to end up in a poor spot. So difficult race to work out who to be negative towards, and forgiving of Lover's effort, even though it's won the race because of the big weight and gap between runs. There you go, guys. It's a long card. I can't even remember, really. There were too many horses to follow. It wasn't that sort of meeting. It was just sort of trying to dissect it all, and there was a couple of races where we just wanted to clarify the quality and where we might think a couple of runners will go. So hopefully you got something out of it, and we'll push on to a review of the whole week Monday or Tuesday this week. Thanks, guys.